Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Winners Win podcast. This is episode 18. I got a lot I want to get into today. We have the NBA Finals underway. Celtics took a 1-0 lead. I want to get into that. I want to get into the Phillies. Joe Girardi, manager, let go Friday. Eagles getting ready to start up here. So there's a lot going on. We'll start to shift a little bit in some of our conversation. But first, just to close out the Sixers stuff, I know I've spent a lot of time on that. I think it's important to try to sometimes not just talk about the Sixers, but try to compare yourself to someone who's doing it right. And as hard as that is to hear for a lot of Sixers fans, you look at this Boston Celtics team. You know, it's funny. If you go back 10 years ago, I thought back to 10 years ago, they were in a much similar place, the Sixers and Celtics. You know, Celtics were getting out of that Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rondo, Ray Allen era, and they were starting to rebuild and look towards the future. Sixers were going into the process and they wanted to look towards the future. So they had similar visions and they were on a similar timeline. And so you look ahead and you say, well, who got there faster? Who did it more efficient? And there's no question the Celtics did. And they kept winning at the front of their mind. They didn't go through this long process. No pun intended, but they kind of got right back to winning, and they had an idea of the kind of guys they wanted. And if you look back at three drafts in particular, the drafts that the Sixers take, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, and Joel Embiid, which was supposed to be their foundation of winning, which is a joke. The Celtics in those same three drafts took Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart in worse spots. So we get Ben Simmons 1, they get Jaylen Brown 3. We get Fultz 1, they get Tatum 3. We get Joel 3, they get Marcus Smart 6. And you know, to me, it just shows decisions matter. Choices matter. Understanding what you want in a player matters. Not being influenced by fans or media matter. Understanding what you're looking at matters. And the Celtics got it right. And fast forward, they're 3 wins away from an NBA final. I believe they'll win this series. And the Sixers got it wrong. 2 of those guys are not on the team. 2 of them are not even contributing in the NBA. One is a hypochondriac who wants to be in the movies, who can't get through the second round due to a mental barrier. And it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. You know, Tatum, this guy is obsessed with Kobe Bryant. Wears his wristband, wears his shoes, worked with him before Kobe died. When Ben Simmons had a chance to, he denied it, but Tatum accepted it. His career has taken off since then. Jaylen Brown, there's a video of him watching the 2015 Golden State team saying how I can't wait to get here. I envision myself in the finals. Marcus Smart, tough. And when you interview a guy, when you talk to guys before a draft, you need to see that stuff. That stuff matters. Although you just look at tape and film and how their athleticism or how the media portrays them, that stuff matters. And they got it right. And so when you talk about acquiring assets, which was the goal of Sam Hinkie, acquiring assets doesn't mean anything unless you know what to do with the assets. You know, if a homeless person, which happens often, or someone who has no money wins the lottery or comes into some money, they will most likely quickly blow that money if they're financially illiterate. And so if you're illiterate in knowing what winning looks like or knowing what kind of players will help establish that foundation, you too will come up small. So it doesn't matter how many picks you have. It's what you do with the picks that you do have. And so the Sixers fans that are now not watching, I know they've run down the shore to engage in some low seeking pleasure for the summer, to run away from their problems and whatever else they're doing. And they didn't watch the Eastern Conference Finals. They didn't watch the NBA Finals. They're not watching the NBA Finals, I should say. They don't see how far off that team is. I mean, you watch the Eastern Conference Finals, you watch Jimmy Butler in Miami, the toughness, the competitiveness. He's hurt. His knee's hurt. He rolls his ankle in Game 6 in Boston. Doesn't show it on his face. Doesn't make it an excuse. Scores 47, brings it back home. Boston goes on the road in Game 7, wins a tough game. Sixers not even close to that mentally. I don't care about talent. Mentally, they're not there. And they're not going to get there with what they have. Game 1 of the NBA Finals, the pace, the intensity, up and down. Different galaxy than the Sixers. Different galaxy. So, and I like the Celtics to win this series. You know, I like the Celtics. I think they're tougher than Golden State. I think they're longer. They're more athletic, maybe a little deeper, more physical, mentally tougher. I like them in 6. If I was the Sixers, if I was Daryl Morey, I would trade Joel Embiid today. I would start to shop him today. I would start over. I would learn from my mistakes. I would understand I'm so far off. I have to rip this Band-Aid off and start over. He'll never do it. They'll never do it because number one, they don't have the guts. Number 2, they don't have the vision to see it. But what is this guy going to be in 3-4 years? What do you think he's going to be? He's going to be 32, more injuries, more wear and tear on the body, more hitting the floor, more excuses, more money, and 4 more years of not really knowing how to win. Get rid of him now. Don't be late. Bill Belichick always said, you don't invest in a player for what they do for you now, but what they're going to do for you. So you can't look at him and go, oh, we thought he was MVP this year. No, what's he going to be in 3 years? An aging 7'2" guy who's a hypochondriac and who can't get through 2 rounds without being hurt and telling everyone he's hurt and sick. Is that going to get better or worse as you age? So part ways. You made mistakes. Accept it. Move on. Correct them. Don't sweep them under the rug and ignore them. Correct them. Because in 3 years, when these kids come out of their funk and realize, oh my God, Joel Embiid's shot. He's not the same guy. What do we do? It's going to be too late. You can get something for him now, really good. Have the guts to do it. And we can play this back in 2 or 3 years and see if I was right. As far as this series goes, like I said, I like Boston. I think Golden State is not the team of 5-6 years ago that everyone thinks they are. They're not as deep. They're not as big. They're not as strong. They're not as athletic. Andre Iguodala is almost shot. Draymond Green is okay, but he's not the same guy. Klay Thompson is a shell of himself. Steph is Steph, you know. Steph, as great as Steph is, Steph has the same thing as usual. When he's hitting those shots, and they're not good shots, but he's so good at making them, you don't say anything. But, you know, it's not great basketball all the time. It's these crazy threes and these. But when they take that away, or when it gets a little more difficult, or they're not falling, they become very beatable. And that's what you saw in the fourth quarter. I think the scary thing is he wasn't missing in the first quarter, and the game was still tight. But fourth quarter, you know, things tightened up. Celtics got hot and they get blown out. It was a 40-14 or 40-16 the quarter. So I think my eyes tell me Celtics are better. No emotion. Just, I don't care either way. I think they're better. I like them in 6. We'll see tonight. They're up 1-0. Normally I'd love the home team tonight, but for some reason, I don't think it's a lock. I think Golden State will win, but I don't know. I don't feel great about it. The line's low. I think it's very demoralizing when you lose a game like they did the other night. But we'll see. They won't panic. They've been around. Could turn it into a tough series, but I like Boston. I think they're over the last 2-3 months, are the best team in basketball, in my opinion. There's nobody been better. I thought Steve Kerr was terrible the other night. Thought he took Steph out of that after that first quarter. He was hot. He was going to have a 50-point night or more. And he kind of let things cool down and slow down, and they made it a game again. And then they build it back up again, and then they lose it again in the fourth quarter. So see what happens. Talk about it a couple more times, and then we'll shift from the NBA to baseball, maybe some football in the coming months. Baseball, Phillies, Joe Girardi, they let go of Joe Girardi Friday. I can't say I was shocked by it. I was hearing some rumblings. It was a little early. They had a really tough schedule, but when you have a $240 million payroll and you're paying the luxury tax, there's expectations that come with that. You can't be 11, 12 games out of first place in June. You can't be 8 games under 500 on May 31st. And so obviously Joe fell on the sword. No one else was going to. So they'll have an interim manager. They'll probably hire Dombrowski's choice, after this season's over, and we'll see what happens. But here's my take on the Phillies. First of all, the current team, I think they have a lot of talent. They shouldn't be as bad as they are. And they've won 3 in a row now, of course, 2 with the new manager. And I wasn't shocked at that. Sometimes you breathe some new life and you make a change. Sometimes that happens. Remember a couple of years ago, Charlie Manuel became the hitting coach and they started hitting all over the place. And it eventually died down. I think it's anecdotal. Sometimes it's a weird time. Philly schedule's about to get a little easier, so they might start winning a little more. But my take on the current team is a lot of talent. I think the starting pitching's been really good, a lot better than they probably expected. Nola's been good. Wheeler's been good. There's been some positives there. I think they've gotten good starting pitching. Offense, not good enough at all. Too up and down, too streaky. Bullpen, pretty bad. It's been better a little bit recently. Brad Hand has had a couple good outings. Sir Anthony's been a positive, but overall it's been bad. It's been managed bad. I think Joe did a really bad job managing it. But you look at the lineup and look where they're flawed. They don't have a leadoff hitter. They bat Kyle Schwarber leadoff. They've now lost Segura for 3 months, so there's no option there. But Schwarber, he is what he is. I mean, he hits home runs. He's got power. He's been on some winning teams. But I think he has to bat at the bottom of the order, towards the middle to the bottom of the order. He can't be a leadoff hitter. He hits 200. So, yeah, he hits home runs, but he hits 200. And he has no speed. You need speed to get these guys on. You go back to the 08-09 team, Jimmy Shane at the top of the lineup for Ryan Howard and Jason Worth and Pat Farrell and Utley and those guys. When you have guys that can run on the bases and steal bases and run all over the place, it puts a lot of pressure on the pitcher. We have enough pop in the middle of our lineup where if we had speed at the top of the lineup, it would make all the difference. And so we don't have a leadoff hitter. I don't know the answer, but we don't have one. We might not have an answer. We don't have an answer. Also, Schwarber can't play left field at all. Terrible. So he's a liability there. You have no center fielder. You have no shortstop. You're in a bad contract with Didi Gregorius. But the key to all of it, in my opinion, the key to all of it, and this has been going on for as long as I can remember. You had a period there from 07 to 11 where you had a nice core group of players that came up through the system, got some other guys through trades. But the key to all this whole thing is we don't have any young guys that come up through the system and really contribute. And that you can't win like that. And we haven't in a while. So you can blame Girardi. That's a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. A guy that I hated, Gabe Kapler, and I hated him, but he also is not the problem. Matt Klentak, for 5 years. John Middleton made a mistake and allowed him to be here for, I don't know if it was 5, maybe a little under, but allowed him to be here for a while, where there was no drafting, no development of players. Everybody went backwards. Ruben Amaro, same thing. It's been an ongoing problem through the minor league system, through the farm system. Everybody regresses. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Because there's guys that are good down there, but come up and don't do anything. Bryson Stott, Moniak, Matt Vierling, Bohm, who I like. Bohm, I like him. He's been terrible lately. He's in a bad funk, but I do like Bohm. But if you look at the guys that contribute on a day-to-day basis that have come up, who is it? Reese? And Reese is streaky too. You look at all these other teams that are good and stay good, they bring guys up and develop guys. The guy they brings up, he contributes. Our guys go backwards. It's been going on and on and on for years. And then they go to another team like J.P. Crawford, who could be our everyday shortstop, but he's now with Seattle and is really productive. So it's something we do. It's something in our culture that has gone on and on. And until that gets fixed, Joe Girardi, Gabe Kapler, Dave Dombrowski, whoever you bring in, I don't think they're going to be able to fix it overnight. And you can go sign all these free agents, and that's great, but that's not a recipe for winning, especially long term. And they get nothing from the guys they bring up, nothing, almost zero production. So everything has to come from JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Schwarber, Zach Wheeler, guys that we sign, that we pay a fortune to. And that's why you have to be over the luxury tax too. So I don't see that. I know they've made some changes in the minors. I know they've done some things with scouting and they've revamped a lot of that stuff, but sometimes that stuff that may take years to be fruitful. And until that becomes fruitful, until you can until that starts to pay off, I just don't know. I don't see it. I mean, luckily there's a third wild card spot now, so that they'll have a chance to hang in there. But the teams that are really good, you look at Atlanta, Washington, who the two teams in the division that have won in the last 5 years. They had guys that came up through the system when we were really good. Same thing. So we'll see what happens. I think, it's early, which is good, but I think in the long run, that's the problem that has to get fixed. Eagles getting ready to get started up. I'll just touch quickly on the Eagles. I think they've done a lot of good things. I think the fans are happy. That doesn't always mean anything. There's a lot of expectation. It's all going to come down to the quarterback. I know I'm in the minority. I like the quarterback kind of. I'm not naive. I don't think he's the best player in the world, but I think what are the options for what's out there? He's athletic. I think he works really hard. It's going to come down to his decision-making. It's going to come down to his arm. Can he make the throws? Can he make good decisions? Can he take care of the ball? He's got weapons. And you'll get your answer this year. You'll see if he goes forward or backward. And then they'll have to make a decision. But I have hope in him. I think there's a chance you could see some good things from him. I think they've solidified adding A.J. Brown, some of the weapons. I think they've done a good job getting some young guys from big programs on defense. and we'll see what the coach does. It'll be a telling year for him too. But I think there's reason for optimism with the Eagles. Last thing I want to touch on, my favorite guy from 97.5 The Fanatic, Mikey Miss, shortens his last name. I don't know why, but was fired from the show this week. And he's been around a long time. He's been all over the radio waves in Philadelphia. He was let go. There's a lot of talk about, we lost a legend, all this stuff. The guy is an ultimate fraud. Ultimate fraud. Philadelphia sports and the community are better without him. This guy doesn't watch games. It's obvious when he talks about games. Stealing money. Has an ego that you can't imagine. And sayonara, don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's what happens when you're lazy and you make cheap comments and you have some nonsense show that you think people are going to watch. It's a different day today. You have podcasts, you have streaming, people aren't interested in hearing a guy that you learn nothing from, that gives you some nonsense that all you have to do is listen for 5 minutes and go, I'm not learning anything from this guy. He doesn't not even watching games and talks with the arrogance like he created sports. So nice to see him go. I think they're hurting for talent over there at that station and other stations. It's not an easy business how they hire a lot of these young kids who just say crazy things or also don't watch. They have bad role models in him, I guess. But so we'll see what happens. It's an exciting time. I think a lot of opportunity out there for people who want to be involved in this, in the kind of work that, you're talking sports and stuff, because I think it's making a shift from those local radio stations to different things online. I think you can get a lot of different opinions and takes, which I think is a good thing. More competition always brings out the better in people. So, all right, guys, we'll be back next week. I think we'll talk more NBA finals. Like I said, Celtics at 6. I like that. See how it goes. Watch for Golden State to get worn down as the series goes on. I think the toughness of the Celtics will wear them down a little bit. And maybe we can get the Phillies hot here for the next month, June and July, before the All-Star break. All right, guys, have a good week.